What's up, y'all? Welcome back to A History of Basketball in 15 Sneakers, the podcast here on Grind City Media. We're coming to you live from the Built for Tough studio here in Memphis, Tennessee. I am Lane Whitaker. I'm here with my guy, Russ Bengtson, who wrote this book, A History of Basketball in 15 Sneakers. And we are working our way slowly through all these chapters and all these shoes and all this stuff. And we've gotten to the last chapter, and we've gone through a lot of history, and now it's time we go back to the future. Because chapter 15 in your book, chapter 16 for us, is the Nike Adapt BB, the shoe that came out, a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
A little more than that now, because,
2019.
I pitched the shoe book a while back, so yeah.
It's the self-tightening shoe, self-whatever.
The self-auto-lacing, self-tightening, however you want to call it, kind of the performance equivalent of the legendary Nike Mag from Back to the Future.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I kind of struggled with that. I don't know if I want to say struggled with it, but went back to that in that chapter where it's like I started wondering, okay, this shoe was designed for a movie in 1989 to be 2015, but were they already working on it, or was it a case of they obviously weren't because it was so far in advance?
Yeah.
But then that became like something to work towards.
Yeah.
Because everyone who saw that movie at a certain age has that scene
like
still
us.
stuck in their head.
In Back to the Future 2, when Marty McFly gets to the future and he gets a pair of sneakers and they're Nikes and he pushes a button and they go whoop, and they tighten up around. I remember seeing it as a kid and being like, oh my gosh, like that's the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Right. And the thing is, like, okay, so finding out later, like Tinker Hatfield not only designed the shoe, but also storyboarded the scene so to make it work. And apparently initially, and the reason it was called the Nike Mag was the original idea of the scriptwriters was to have the shoe make him able to walk up walls.
Right. It's a magnetic. Yeah.
I believe Tinker's reaction to that was like, why would anyone want to do that?
Yeah.
And ended up coming up with this idea for the self-lacing, which they did through movie magic. You can put in the sounds in post. You have someone underneath pulling the shoe tight.
Yeah.
So it's not like they had to come up with a way for the shoe to work to be in the movie.
At the time, yeah.
But if you watch the movie and that's what you know it from, you see the shoe tighten itself, you see the lights come on. I want that.
The thing that I thought of reading this chapter is like that this shoe and this concept and this chapter really is sort of a jumping off point to talk about the future of sneakers and where things go from here. But so many times now we have seen companies try to figure out a way to get around laces, right? From the Puma with the dial on it, we talked about all these, the Hirachis that slip on, and all these other companies have tried all these different things that like sort of like trying to invent a car without tires.
I think there's some of that.
Like, why do we have can we just stick with laces?
I also feel like
Velcro shoes.
With a lot of these things, the simplest is best, right? So like the idea of putting a motor in a shoe with switches that you can also control by your phone.
Yeah.
There's just a lot going on there. And like, it's funny that this is called the Adapt BB. It's like, wait, why isn't it the Air Adapt? Because it's like there is no air in that shoe. That shoe it's just foam. And like there have been a lot of advances in foam. Like the stuff works better now. But it's like Nike to sort of abandon what had been their signature technology for decades in their most advanced shoe. Like it makes sense, but it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. There was a lot of things about this concept that didn't make sense. I remember when they launched the Earl, EARL, which was sort of the same idea. I don't know, it was 5-6 years before this one. And I remember being at the launch in New York and seeing somebody put them on and they do something and you could see it tighten up around your foot.
Yep.
Then you find out those shoes cost $720.
Yeah. And Tinker's like sort of conversation with that and his reasoning with some of that was like, Earl meet Chuck. Like it's a wear for all purposes shoe. I do not remember offhand what that anagram is.
I just think of Earl Smith, JR, like that's his real name. But yeah.
But the idea that okay, fine. It's an all-around shoe. You can wear it for anything. But again, yes, $720 is certainly limiting the people who could buy it.
Yeah.
They got to the Adapt BB, the idea being to bring this to basketball, and the price was cut in half, but you're starting from this massive price. So it's a $300+ basketball shoe.
Yeah.
That you have to remember to charge.
Yeah.
I don't think you could get trapped in it, but at the same time, like, you want it to be able to work. Like, if the whole point is loosening and tightening it, you want to be able to do both. It's a technological achievement by any stretch, but even now, a few years after, like, sort of watching this come out, it's like, okay, where is this headed?
Yeah.
And any technology is going to become cheaper as it's
sure
more common.
Hopefully better.
Except for iPhones.
Yeah.
But where is the point where this becomes worthwhile? Is it 200? Is it 150? Is it working its way into like a super low price version? Like, since then,
Stephen Barry's version, $14.99. I'm in.
You get electrocuted. They did like an Air Max 90, I believe, Adapt. They did an Adapt Jordan 11, which sort of ended up bizarre because I think the Jordan 11 is just a very sleek shoe.
Yeah.
And once you work in this electronic stuff, it's kind of bulky for what it is. And it's also just this single-minded focus on this one thing. Like, the Adapt lacing like this is like, okay, that's the whole story.
Yeah.
So, again, like as you brought up, laces are thousands of years old. They work.
Yeah.
If your shoe comes untied, you can just retie it. It's not hard. If you break a lace, you can just get new laces for like $3. Like, if you break the cables in this, like,
you're screwed.
Yeah.
The funny part is that the Air Mag, in the movie, he's in 2015, which is 8 years ago or something. Yeah. We're way past what they kind of assumed might be the future.
And the thing is, like, that put a bit of a deadline on it. Like, they wanted to come out with an actual self-lacing shoe by that point, which took a lot of work. Because again, like, the thought was, oh, well, we did it for the movie, we can do this again. And it's like, oh, wait,
that was a movie. Yeah.
Which in hindsight makes sense. That's like saying, like, oh, we should have flying cars because we had flying cars in Blade Runner. It's like, well, yeah, but it's a movie. So, I mean, that took a lot of effort just to make that work.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to me because I think if you look at the Mag, and this is separate from the Adapt, like, I think the Mag ended up inspiring a lot about basketball shoes moving forward. If you look at the Mag and you look at like the Hyperdunk, or even if you look at
the LeBrons,
what do you call it?
A little bit.
It
looks a little bit like the LeBrons too, like the 20s a little bit.
But also that pump shoe you had,
the air pressure,
$180. Yeah, I mean, the way the midsole was on this, like being so thin and like a lot of it being built in, like some of that was taken right from the start. I think the Mag influenced way more than just the self-lacing.
And I think we're still, sneakers are adapting and evolving, and maybe as technology keeps getting cheaper and smaller, they'll figure out a way to put this in a shoe and make it work.
And you did have guys wear it on the court. Like, there was proof of, that it worked. You had Jason Tatum wearing them. He debuted them in Boston. Then you had Ja Morant here wearing them in like custom colorways he had done himself, or he had done for himself.
Somebody did them.
He didn't do them. But I mean, if an NBA guy would trust it enough to wear it in a game, that's proof that it would work. I think where, unfortunately, it didn't quite make it, and I think this is where the Earl, I think they went the wrong way. I think they should have done the basketball shoe first, which should have been absurdly expensive. Then you do the all-around shoe and make that cheaper. I think if you made the basketball shoe $800 and then the all-rounder was like $300, $250, maybe a few more people get into it.
Or maybe if you make the basketball shoes like somebody's signature shoe, you know? Like what if the Jason Tatum one is the Adapt BB and you have to tighten it with your phone and all this stuff and that's all he wears for 6 months or whatever, you know, like different colorways, different things, but the technology is sort of his thing and that's kind of what he's known for. Instead, like, you know, it was one of these shoes that like, oh, we'll put it on a couple of guys halfway through the season.
I think you had a couple difficult things working here. And I think, like, first of all, there's a shoe that's incredibly underappreciated in my mind is the LeBron Soldier line. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the work they did with the Soldier was trying to design a laceless basketball shoe, but in a different direction. Like, the LeBron 10 or the Soldier 10 specifically was an all Velcro shoe that LeBron wore in the NBA Finals. Yeah. And like that was kind of a unheralded shoe. I mean, it's not even his primary line. And it's like, but wait, you designed a shoe for a guy who's 250, who cuts like and probably puts more pressure on a shoe than anyone else with no laces that he wore in the NBA Finals. And that, you know, but we're looking even further ahead to this.
Yeah. I mean, I think about, we talked about laces and why are we getting away from laces? But like when I was in 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, I had a pair of Reeboks that had 3 Velcro straps and that was all it had. They had no laces, you know.
Right. But I don't think you were playing in the NBA though.
No, but it was fine to play with my friends and play in the backyard and all that stuff. You know what I mean? Like they didn't have to be performance shoes. And I think that's kind of where we also get into some trouble with the Adapt, though, is like these guys, the Air Mag is a movie thing. Like these have to be performance shoes that guys wear in the NBA, and they have to protect them and you know, keep them from getting hurt.
Like, and I kind of got at this in this chapter, and like the way I related basketball to it, and analytics people are probably going to be upset with me, and I'm going to get nasty tweets from like John Hollinger.
Yeah.
But you know, I think it's possible to focus too much on one thing.
Yeah.
And whether it's in the way basketball is played or the way a sneaker is designed. And, you know, it's kind of like getting caught up in just shooting threes. Like you can really end up overlooking. And I don't think the NBA does. I think it gets accused of it more so than anything. Like, you know, wait a minute, but you can't abandon post play.
Yeah.
I don't think people really have, but it's possible to, like, to just jack up threes all day.
Sure.
And I think this is a similar thing where it's like the idea of a self-tightening, self-loosening shoe is really cool. And again, like the fact that people were enamored by this since Back to the Future 2 still look at Back to the Future 2. Like that scene, I think, still probably captures people's imagination, even though we're 8 years past it. But, you know, had they done this shoe with actual laces that you could tie, and then some underlying system under there, like not the hero of it,
the be all end all,
but you could tie it and then loosen and tighten it to a degree. It would still look like a regular shoe, but it would have this additional functionality. You know, maybe that gets accepted differently.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you make a shoe that just has laces and it's still $350, I don't know.
Well, Russ, this is the end of the road. We've done 16.
I'm have to write 15 more chapters.
We'll have to do your history of what's the next one?
Figure out the next book.
And 15 sneakers.
A history of the Grizzlies and 15 Bears.
We've done 16 chapters and sat here and talked for 3 days and recorded all these things, and it's been a lot of fun. And like, this is a wildly broad question to ask, but like when you finish this thing, is there like, could you distill it down to one thing, one takeaway from all this?
Wow, that's a difficult question.
I said it's a wildly broad question to ask.
I mean, honestly, I think the one sentence thing is that the history of basketball and the history of sneakers is just one history.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to say 2 sentences about it. But I think I told you, like, to me, the most important word in the title of this book isn't history, it isn't basketball, it isn't sneakers. It's A. Like, that was very specific. Like, had I wanted to write the history of basketball in 15 sneakers, this is probably a very different book.
Right.
And like, this is my history.
All history is subjective. I took a class in college, and I remember History 101. The first thing they come in is like, all history is subjective, and this is a history.
Yeah, I think when you pitch a book, like, and when you propose a book, and when you even start writing a book, like, you're just sort of caught up in like everything can be.
Yeah.
And like, literally from that moment on to the end of the writing process, you're cutting things and figuring out what not to talk about. So, there will be things in here that people are going to be like, oh my God, why didn't he talk about this? Is because the book would be 10,000 pages long and I would never finish it.
Yeah, we'd still be in here recording podcasts if we did.
Hopefully we'll do that anyway.
Well, I'm glad we did this, and it was fun to go down memory lane and talk about slam and sneakers and basketball and all that stuff. And I also just want to say shout out to Sherm and the guys from Sneak Fest for helping us find all these shoes around the Memphis area that we have on set with us here today. We got almost all 15 of the sneakers. Russ brought some with him from New York. I had some, and then Sherm and those guys really helped us out on that too. So just shout out to them for helping us get the shoes here.
Yeah, and I want to say thank you to you,
Yep.
Lang, and to Grind City Media for letting us do this.
Yeah.
And letting us talk randomly about
There's a
things
low
for
bar
hours
at
at a
Grind City
time.
Media. Like, you got that content idea? Then come on, let's do it.
I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah. So when you do your highlight book, we'll get on it. So that's it. That's all 16. And I hope you enjoyed hanging out with us and talking with us. And hope you go buy multiple copies of Russ's book, A History of Basketball in 15 Sneakers. And I hope you come back and watch Sneak Fest on Tuesdays. Watch Sneak Fest Tuesdays at 2 on Grind City Media and on YouTube and all those things. And come back for more Grind City Media content. We got a lot of good stuff here, but that's it. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you soon. He's Russ. I'm Lang.
Thank you very much.
If you're looking for even more sneaker culture content, check out the Sneak Fest Show with me, Kelsey Ray Johnson, Sherman, Adam, and Jerry, live every Tuesday at 2 p.m. on Grind City Media YouTube and the brand new Grind City Media app.